Well, hello, it's Michael Angelo Caruso. I'm with another one of my speaker buddies. I am so impressed with this young man, and when I say young, I mean it because he is sharp. He is cutting edge. He is really good at what he does. He is not fading into the sunset. This is Donald Cooper, everybody. Good morning, Donald.
Good morning, Michael.
We met at a conference. I try to tell people that aren't in the speaking business. There's an association for everything.
There
And you
is.
and you and I
There
met
is.
when we spoke at the Coin Laundry Association in San Diego, not even a month ago. And you were awesome, man. It's fun to see the bios and the headshots, and all speakers look the same. We've all written New York Times bestsellers. We're all the greatest things since sliced bread. We all work with Fortune 500 companies. But you walk the walk. You really delivered. Now, the talk at Coin Laundry was about leadership succession, correct?
Yes, succession planning and exit strategies.
But that's only one of the things that you teach. If you had 10 words to tell anybody what you do, how you help people, how do you describe what you do?
I help business owners and managers transform their business to sell more, manage smarter, grow their bottom line, and have a life.
There you
That's the
go.
that's the checklist. Sell more, manage smarter, grow your bottom line, and have a life. That's it.
I think the have a life is the most important part because there are people that are really good at what they do, Donald, and that's all they do is work. And they
I
are the
have a
most
question that I love to ask audiences and coaching clients, and that is, does your business model serve your life model?
yeah.
And they look like deer caught in the headlights, and so often the response is not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I just finished reading a book called Outlive. You'd be interested in that, like I am, because we want to do more good in the world. It's by Dr. Peter Attia, and he says that people need to match their longevity to the quality of their life, because it's no good living longer if you're not leading a quality life. It's no good working harder if you don't have other parts of your life clicking. You particularly shared that during the leadership succession, but we're going to do something for our speaker buddies today that will help them understand how they can stop working so hard, do something that's a little bit more organic and um, in continuity with a life arc. You sent over some talking points to me. I love them. But before we get started, everybody, if you want to surf a little bit while we're chatting, it's donaldcooper.com. And Donald's based in Toronto. You've had a long history in the speaking business. Is it NSA or is it the Canadian version of NSA that you belong to?
Both.
Yeah.
National Speakers Association well, they were in Phoenix. I think they've moved. And then CAPS is the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. CAPS is also the Canadian Association for people who stutter. There's like, don't get those two confused. Well, anywho, if you love irony, that's just great.
And you stuttered as a teenager.
I stuttered as a teenager. I grew up pathologically shy. I have a memory challenge that prevents me from knowing what the next slide is, even though I've done 3,000 sessions in 31 years. And so I have no qualifications for this line of work, absolutely none.
In that
But at
case,
the age of 50, my family business that I grew up in and worked in for 20 years was Cooper Canada Sports Equipment. We are the largest maker of ice hockey equipment in the world and a leading maker of baseball equipment, lacrosse, other team sports. And we also made leather goods, wallets, purses, and key cases, and golf bags and luggage. We had 3 divisions. We sold that business for a number of family and strategic reasons. And I accidentally became a retailer of ladies' clothing in Toronto. I had one store, did $15 accidentally the first day, and in 3 years was voted Canada's outstanding innovative retail business of any kind. And I got a call to go and speak in Chicago at a big international conference. And what I discovered accidentally on a stage in Chicago is that there was a message that was in search of a speaker. There was a message about business excellence and about customers, creativity, courage, and life that no one was articulating. There are so many speakers out there who I call speakers in search of a message. What I discovered accidentally was that there was a message out there that was in search of a speaker. So I spoke my unique truth on a stage in Chicago for 45 minutes 31 years ago, went back home, and the phone has not stopped ringing.
Well, I would say you found your stride. You remind me when you say speaker in search of a message, when we have too many speakers in search of a message, we have too many audiences in search of the speaker's message. And I love the fact that you were very clear about what you were going to teach us. You delivered in spades. And I immediately wanted to know you better. And I'm so glad that you're with us today. Tell us a little bit more about your philosophy of good speaking. And maybe we can use this as a platform, Donald. What are you seeing in other speakers? And we don't want to talk bad about our kin, but what are you seeing in other speakers as the number one major mistake that most speakers make?
Oh boy, how would you pick number one out of the long list of mistakes that are made? But a couple of them that really occur to me. A question, and I have a boot camp program that I've done for speakers organizations and speaker groups, and I give them hell. And one of the questions I love to ask is, are you a thought creator or a thought repeater? I mean, people buy the book Good to Great, and then they write a speech about Good to Great, and they're doing a book report. Who's going to pay you 10 grand for a book report when you didn't even write the book? And I can buy the book for 16 bucks. I'm going to pay you 10 grand for a book report. So are you a thought creator or a thought repeater? And I've worked 31 years to be a thought creator. And then the other one, stop endlessly quoting famous dead people. Abraham Lincoln does not need help with his branding. You do. He doesn't. So make up your own stuff. For example, when I talk about multitasking, I say women can do 6 things at once. Men think multitasking is peeing in the shower. Now, Abraham Lincoln never said that.
No, he didn't. Well, Abraham Lincoln
Or a
did.
family business is simply a partnership where blood boils at room temperature. George Washington never said that.
Yeah, and not for nothing, but Abraham Lincoln never took a shower. Let's be clear about that as well. uh, I'd like to have $1 for every speaker that's ever said, begin with the end in mind, which we all know was Stephen Covey 30 years
Yeah.
ago. If you, and the rule is, everybody, for those of you listening, if you're going to quote somebody, and it's okay to do that sparsely because you don't want that to be all your content, but there's a thing called attribution, which is where you attribute the quote to the other person. It's a decent thing to do. And if you ever become quotable yourself, you're going to want other people to do that for you. So tell us a bit more about this this idea of showing off as a speaker. I think a lot of times we get that spotlight and we become circus performers, and we start
We're
going.
there to serve. We're not there to show off. So whether you speak professionally or communicate with people as part of sales or leadership, much of our value in this very complex and confused world is to be simplifiers and clarifiers. And that doesn't work if we're using words that the audience doesn't understand.
Yes.
Or they feel embarrassed that they don't understand those words. So we're not there to show off our IQ or our extensive vocabulary. We are there to be helpful and to unconfuse people, and we're there to serve and uplift. And I just see so much of this showing off. Even I spoke for a group of health food store owners in Saskatchewan, in the prairies of Canada. And these were people who owned health food stores in small towns, and they're wearing sweats and Birkenstocks. And the speaker who went on after me was wearing a $10,000 three-piece suit, probably a $1,000 silk tie, and he had a gold pocket watch on a gold chain tucked into a little watch pocket of his vest. And every 10 minutes he would pull it out and look at his
Oh,
watch. I mean, there's two things wrong there. There's his suit costs more than their homes, for God's sake, and
yeah,
then this watch thing. You never look at your watch, because then
no,
everyone else looks at their watch and goes, "When's this going to end?" So
you're
I sat at the back of the room, and I kept mentally trying to send him a message, telepathy, whatever it's called. Send him a message. Put the watch away, take the suit jacket off, be real. But I mean, even his fake teeth probably cost more than their car. So, I mean, we're not there to show off. We're there to help people, to be one of them. And I do one-on-one coaching sessions after my speeches. When I see celebrity speakers at a conference, and I'm standing at the back of the ballroom watching them, and then I just look around for their luggage. And their luggage, these celebrity speakers, their luggage is always right by the back door, and the limo's already waiting for them, and they
yeah.
still have 15 minutes to go on stage. But that tells me everything I need to know about their commitment to deliver extraordinary outcomes. And their commitment is zero. Their commitment is to a paycheck. Once I get that payment, then I forget about it. And my commitment is, how can I make sure that those people who have given me 90 minutes or half a day or whatever of their time, at the end, they say, there is no better place that I could have been today than in that room with that Cooper guy.
Yeah. One of the speakers at our event, which we don't need to mention the name, I marveled at the fact that she had just met the association president the day before the speech. It was the first time she even talked to him. Never reached out, never had a convo, never thanked him for bringing them in. Now, she may have come in through a bureau, but I just can't imagine that rolling that way. I mean, if it works for you, that's great. But this idea of having the luggage show up 10 minutes before you start and then rolling out to the airport 10 minutes after you're done, in the business, it's called a drive-by. And all these people that do it, they go, oh, I'm so busy, I'm very popular, which is another form of showing off. I like your idea, no looking at the watch. You forget about time when I'm with you. My time is your time. I use those phrases always. Do you
Now
remember?
you need to end on time. So I have my little mug of herb tea, throat coat tea, on a little table, and I have a little digital watch, and I have a little piece of paper that says on it when I have to finish. So when I go over to
Yes.
the table to pause to give the audience time to think about something I just said for a couple of seconds, I go over to the little table, I pick up my mug, I take a sip, and I glance down at my digital clock and the time
Oh, I love
on the piece
that.
of paper that says, so it's seamless. They don't know that I'm keeping track of the time. But the other thing about, there's two kinds of speakers, Michael. There's the it's all about me speakers, and then there's the it's all about you speakers. The all about me speakers, I climbed Mount Everest with one arm and one leg, or I won a medal at the Olympics, or I'm a media celebrity, whatever. And so they're being paid to tell their story. It's all about me, and you really don't matter. And they've got a canned speech that they deliver the same one every time. And then there's the speakers like us, who are the it's all about you speakers.
Yeah.
And so if it's all about you, I darn well better do the homework. So for example, on that coin laundry speech, I interviewed 9 members of the association for about 40 minutes each, to understand what their challenges are, their opportunities are, their business model is. You need to do the homework. Now, unless it's all about me speaker, in which case then you probably don't, but you probably still should, but they don't. But you do the work. And if you
Yeah.
don't love it enough to do the work anymore, stop taking people's money.
Agreed. You could put your digital clock on the mug itself and then get both done at exactly the same time. Let's talk stagecraft, man. I saw you using a bunch of speaker tricks. We call them tricks because nobody gets hurt. It's like a Penn and Teller magician trick. We're not taking advantage of anybody. But you use some clever strategies on stage. I noticed that you had some. Do you mind if I ask you about these?
Oh, go ahead, whatever. I have no secrets except from my first wife, but
And she knows. The steps that come down the front, very carefully moved over there by you. You walk down 2 or maybe 3 times during the talk. I noticed that you only did it in the first half of the talk. I think I know why you did it, but tell our listeners today.
well, I want to be with people, not preaching at people. And so, uh, plus, I there's so many speakers that talk about passion and energy and all this stuff, but they actually just stand there perfectly still and they don't be it. And
Yeah.
so rather than talk about passion and energy, I be it. So I am moving around. Now, my session was videotaped by the client with my permission. So because I know that I'm going to be moving back and forth across the stage, I'm going to be stepping down into the aisle to be with people. I made sure that I checked with the videographer ahead of time so that he knew that I'm going to be mobile and he has to follow me if he wants a decent quality video. So we have many customers. We have the people who hired us. Maybe sometimes there's a speaker bureau customer involved. There's the people in the room with you, the audience, their customers. But the AV guys, the video guys, they're all customers.
That's right.
And
I remember.
we need them to have an extraordinary outcome. But first you have to be committed to extraordinary outcomes, which I am. And then you need to check in with those people, acknowledge them, thank them ahead of time, thank them afterwards, but make sure that they know what to. Now, the other thing is I have a rule, even though I've done 3,000 sessions in my career, I never go to bed at night before I'm going to be presenting without seeing the room that I'm going to be presenting in tomorrow. Never. And it's so easy to say, oh, I've done 3,000 of these, whatever the room looks like, it'll be all right, I'll figure it out. No, there are disciplines. And so I want, if there's something wrong with the setup in that room, I want to know that evening before, because then maybe something can be fixed at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning when you finally show up in the room, the event room. It's too late.
Yeah.
So there's these little disciplines.
Yeah, I love it. And I loved, back to the video again, and I loved how you checked with Scott, our AV guy that day. When you came down the stage, you didn't walk away out of the camera view. You walked down the center aisle. The camera was at the end of the center aisle, so we knew that you were in the frame the entire time as you telescoped in and out of the audience. In comedy, everybody, this is called breaking down the fourth wall or busting the fourth wall. So Donald becomes part of the group, then he's back on stage again. This oneness that we're implying here in this part of our talk this morning. Here's another thing that, and I got away from this for a while, Donald. I'm back doing it again now. When we have a long room like we did in San Diego, we're pleasers as speakers, so we try to play to everybody, and we end up doing this kind of wide pan like this. And if we have a lot of energy, we start pacing and we force everybody to watch the tennis match of us walking back and forth like this, right? But worse, more people see the video, to your earlier point, than the number of people in the in the room. Most of the time, more people are seeing the video. So I've just recently now gotten back to focusing all my salient messages to the lens of the camera in the back of the room, not to these corners, because on video, it looks like you're always looking away.
Yes.
And it's so many little things like this to remember as part of the stagecraft.
Well, the whole stagecraft thing, being compelling, mastering the craft of vocal variation, pausing, stagecraft, boring sucks and stuffy sucks. And we need to be real and be compelling without being overbearing. And that you just have a way of communicating that commands attention. Now, the other part of that is it's edutainment. And if you're not entertaining, if you're not entertaining, you're not educating, because sleeping people learn nothing. It's one of the first things I learned in this business. Sleeping people learn nothing. Our first job is to keep them awake, and our second job is to tell them really important stuff. And if you don't have really important stuff to tell them, just let them nap. At least their time with you is some benefit. But to the whole vocal variation, I have an 11-year-old grandson, Gus, who has mastered vocal variation better than many of my professional speaker friends. His pausing, his loud, soft, fast, slow. The choice of words. We need to, without using big words, we need to use words that surprise people. And for Pete's sake, stop using the word sex when you mean gender. I mean, it's a perfect example of just choosing the right word. People so often use the word sex when they mean gender. And the problem is the word sex has so many other meanings, and the mind runs off in 8 different directions. But the word gender has one meaning only, and it keeps people focused on what you were really trying to say. And there's all these little things. The number 11, when I talk about why is it that so many people are at their most creative best when thinking of 11 reasons not to do something wonderful. How did I pick 11? I tried every number from 1 to 20 and just said them. I said that little part of my stuff, my material, and listened with my trained ear. At 9, it's too short. At 8:15, it's too long. 11. 11's a wonderful word. First of all, it's a vocal surprise because people don't expect you to say 11. And then the word 11, you can stretch it out. You can masticate it in a way and enunciate in a way that's interesting to 11. And it gets people's attention. We need to do this kind of work to be interesting.
100%. I read one time, I don't know if it's true, you're familiar with Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week, the book that was out many years ago now.
Yeah.
Of course, that title was tested. All major titles are tested. I had heard or read that they tested different numbers, the 3-hour work week, the 6-hour work week. And because Ford tested the best, they reverse engineered it, all the content, everything in the book to the 4-hour concept. I don't know if it's true or not. Comedians say the same thing. They say certain words are funnier than others. Like in comedy, everybody, hard words, kite, K, the K in kite is funnier than the non-hard consonant. Donald uses sex versus gender. Donald, did you play a musical instrument, or do you now?
No, I have no musical talent whatsoever. I love music, but I cannot create it.
Well, you're referencing this thing we call in music. I grew up playing the trumpet, later the bass guitar. This idea of using different volume, different pace, different dynamics, that's the word in music. It keeps people from feeling like they're being fire hosed, because if you keep coming at them at 160 words a minute, solid, steady Eddie, that's what puts them to sleep, that cadence. So to your point, to shake it up. And I once knew a speaker named Joe Gillum. He's gone now. He was in Florida, NSA guy. He used to yell one random isolated word, yell it like this. He would say, so the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to put quality information in your head. And he would set one random word, and people would jolt up in their seats like this, and he'd have them for another 15 or 20 minutes. So dynamics are important.
Absolutely. Boring sucks.
Yeah.
And stuffy sucks.
You bet. What is your issue with, quote, motivational speakers?
Well, that's a great question, Michael. First of all, I don't think we can motivate anybody. We can inspire people, but ultimately they have to get off their behind and motivate themselves. So I hate the term. At least they should call themselves inspirational speakers. But here's the thing. I believe that as presenters, we have 5 jobs to do. We need to tell people what to do, why to do it. The why to do it is if you don't, somebody else will. And if someone else does something special and wonderful and you don't, then you're going to spend the rest of your life whining about unfair competition. An unfair competition simply means we didn't do anything special and wonderful, and somebody else did, and we're ticked. We did, they did, we didn't, we're ticked. That's about, anyway, so what to do, why to do it, how to do it, then some useful tools, helpful tools to do it. And then number 5, the re-energizing, re-inspiring of people and giving them the belief that with all of this help and insight that we've delivered, they can go out and do it. So I think there's 5: what to do, why to do it, how to do it, some tools to do it, and the belief that they can do it. There's 5 things. Motivational speakers do number 5 only. They do 20% of the job.
Yeah.
And so I do the whole job. I tell when people phone to maybe book me and they say, "Oh, someone said you're a motivational speaker." Oh, please, no, absolutely. And I tell them what I just told you about motivational speakers. And I say, so if you're looking to hire a motivational speaker, which I'm not, I'm a bottom line business speaker who happens to be funny, entertaining, and inspirational. But if you're going to hire a motivational speaker, I suggest you offer them 20% of their fee. And if they say, why are you only offering me that? Say, well, because Cooper says that you're only doing 20% of the job. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we need to, yes, we do need to energize people. And in many cases, we need to help them fall back in love with their business. Because in any audience, and I work with business owners, leaders, and managers, in any audience, my guess is that 25% of them have fallen out of love with their business. And so I'm going to help them do that. And then I'm going to give them the tools and the insights and all the other stuff. And then I'm going to tell them, if this doesn't work for you, if this doesn't get you falling back in love with your business, get the heck out now before you wreck it for everyone.
Yeah. I think clients pay more for speakers who offer more than just motivation, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. People need to know they want the 5 things
Yeah.
that I just listed.
Yeah. And to your
And
point,
to get up and say, I climbed Mount Everest with 1 arm and 1 leg, you can do it. They never tell you what it is. They just say, or how to do it, or they don't give you any tools to do it. They just say, you can do it for 20 or 30 grand for an hour of fluff. And oh, don't even get me started.
no disrespect to people that have missing limbs, but that's a funny tagline. I climbed Mount Everest with 1 arm and 1 leg, and you can too.
Yeah. Anyway, no, and I know lots of people, speaker friends who have overcome disabilities and have become truly inspirational speakers.
Yes.
And but my pitch is, I'll do all 5 of the things that your audience wants.
Yeah.
And
Bravo.
that gets me a lot of business. And then I'm going to give you, every member of the audience, my complete set of business assessment and management implementation tools. I'm going to stay after and do a whole bunch of one-on-one business coaching sessions for people who sign up for more time with me. And I'm going to be the last guy out of the room, because being a simple person, my logic tells me if I'm the last person left in the room, everyone who wanted to get to talk to me did, because I'm the only one left.
Let's talk about that. I have never seen anybody offer one-on-one coaching after their keynote session. Again, most keynotes want to jump on the airplane and get out of town as fast as possible. Did you have a sense? I didn't have a sense when you offered it that a bunch of people were going to be queuing up. And I thought, well, now this is interesting. Let's see what happens. Did you have a feeling, or is that a steady value prop that people just respond to like clockwork, that they would queue up
Well,
after
if
the
we've done our
session?
job on stage, if we've done our job on stage, then there are going to be people who want. I try not to do Q&A after a session, especially succession planning and exit strategies, because the questions that need to be asked are often very personal. It may be
Yes.
that someone wants to put up their hand and say, Donald, I'm in business with my brother-in-law. He's a complete jackass. How do I get rid of him? No one's
Yeah.
going to put their hand up in a room full of 300 people and ask that question, because his brother-in-law is at the next table, for Pete's sake.
At a talk that's being recorded.
Pardon? Oh,
At
yeah, at a talk that's being recorded.
a...
But in that particular business, that's the issue that needs to be dealt with, or that business will grind to a halt and die. And I can help them with that, but not if the question is never asked. And the question will not be asked in a room full of people. Behind a pillar at a quiet business coaching table in a corner that they set up for me, then the question will be asked and I can be helpful. Now, I also make another offer to the audience, which you may have picked up on, that no other speaker that I know of makes in the world. I tell them about the coaching sessions that they can run and sign up for after I'm finished. But I say, for those of you who don't get one of those sessions, you have my permission to phone or email me at any time, as long as I am still alive on this planet, for a reasonable amount of free telephone coaching. Now, if I speak to 20,000 people a year, do they all call? Thank heavens they don't. But many of them do, some of them 3 years after they saw me on stage. And they'll say, I saw you speak in so-and-so place at this conference 3 years ago, and you said if we wanted to call for a reasonable amount of free telephone coaching, that we could do it. It was 3 years ago. Does the offer still stand? And I say, yes. First of all, that they remembered me is a real hug. I love hugs. That's a hug. And then the second, that they believed me when I said it, because we say so much fake, airy-fairy stuff to people. And, oh, Michael, we should have lunch someday soon. English translation of, I never see you again, it'll be way too soon. We do this fake stuff. Yeah. And so that people remembered me and they believed me and called me 3 years, I'll give them 20 minutes or half an hour anytime.
For sure.
And I love it. And I get a lot of business coaching from that, because people want to get more help from people who have been helpful with no strings attached up front. So there was time only for 4 sessions at the Coin Laundry conference. And so I had a clipboard on the end of the table, and the people could come and sign up. It's their responsibility to be there at the time that they have signed up for. And I did 4 right after. So I spoke after lunch, and then I did 4 of those. But what I can tell you is that people lined up to talk to me individually and in small groups, just informally in the foyer, at the cocktail reception after, at the buffet dinner after, until 9 o'clock at night. My voice was starting to go at 9 o'clock, and I finally had to call it a night. But so from after lunch until 9 o'clock at night, I was working to deliver value, and delighted to do it.
Yeah, it was very impressive. I know you give new meaning to the phrase "work the room." Do you think that? Tell me more about this idea of diverting Q&A from the live keynote to the coaching sessions. I love that. I have never done it, but I think that the efficiency and the economy of it is very attractive. You're allowed, you're like you say, you're moving the personal content off stage and into the catacombs where it belongs, but also you're creating a little bit of demand for you afterward, aren't you?
Oh, sure.
They can't talk to you during the keynote. The only time they can is in the hallway.
Yes, because really there was only a couple of kinds of questions. There's the dull, boring questions that no one else in the room cares about. And so you've done your big finish at the end of your speech, and then the energy gets sucked out of the room by a couple of stupid, boring questions. So that's one kind of question. The other kind of question is where the person asking the question has no interest in the question or the answer. They simply want to show off to the rest of the room that they're the smartest person in the room. And they have that as their agenda. And no matter how you answer it, they're going to try to shoot you down and embarrass you because they want to show that they're smarter than you. And then there's the third kind of question, which is, as I earlier mentioned, the ones that don't get asked, like, I'm in business with my brother-in-law, he's a complete jackass, how do I get rid of him?
Right.
And so those are the three kinds of questions. So I would far rather stay and at the conference and at the dinner. People will want to sit with you and ask questions, or individuals or small groups or whatever. And I mean, it's all about a commitment to deliver extraordinary outcomes. And
Yeah.
I made a decision when I turned 70 many years ago that when I stopped caring that much about delivering outcomes, I will stop taking people's money. And I think that it has to do with that funny little thing called integrity.
I love it. Let's close with some business advice. Advice on the business end of speaking for people that are looking to ramp up their game. What would you advise somebody who's getting started in the speaking business today?
Well, one of my big focuses these days with all of my clients, and I work in over 40 different industries around the world, and it would relate to speakers as well, is clarity. Creating a culture, if it's your business, throughout the business, creating a culture of clarity, commitment, urgency, and accountability. And I guess that applies to speakers as well. Be
Right.
clear about who you are and what your value is. And there's a huge lack of clarity in business today, and accountability. So I have a whole session that I do on improving clarity, commitment, urgency, and accountability in your business. And it all starts with clarity. If we are not clear about who we are, how could our customers ever be clear about who we are? Be clear about your delivery style. I'm edgy and irreverent, and I run very close to the line. I try not to cross the line, but I think that the line where people are challenged to think and to grow and to change, and the line where they're offended, are very close together. So a lot of speakers are so afraid to cross that line where people are going to be offended that they stay way back from that line, and they're just boring and mediocre. And
White bread.
so it's the art of knowing where that line is. And one of my insights is that the line changes during our speech. As the audience learns more about us from watching us on stage, we move from being on the first date. So in the first few minutes, speaking is like dating. You can get away with stuff on the sixth date that you cannot get away with on the first date. And you need to know which date you're on with that audience at every minute. Because, for example, women can do 6 things at once. Men think multitasking is peeing in the shower. That's not first date stuff. That's 40 minutes in when you're on a 6th date. And you can be a little edgy and frisky, and they know that you're a smart, good, decent person who just happens to be a little wacky and sees the world a bit differently, and they pay us to see the world differently, don't they? And so that has people falling off their chairs at the 40-minute mark. And if you said it in the 5-minute marks, 20 people might get up and walk out of the room. So always know which date you're on.
Do you ever get in trouble for being edgy?
No, because I do the homework, and I know what edgy is to a particular audience. I've done tons of work in agriculture in the Bible Belt, in the Midwest of the United States, and
Right.
I know that edgy has a very limited definition, a different definition there than it does with a bunch of auto wreckers that I've spoken for 6 or 7 times, and they keep asking me back. And they're in a different culture and a different kind of reality,
And they love you.
and they love me.
I once spoke to the Amish Tourism Board in Illinois.
Wow. See, not edgy. That's
I never felt so unlike myself.
yeah. So I spoke in Iran at a big management conference.
Whoa.
And I had to not be me,
Yeah.
because edgy and irreverent doesn't fly in Iran. And they told me that I might just disappear into a van and never be seen again from the religious police, just who are going to be planted in the audience watching me. And so I couldn't be me. And I decided that I just won't go anywhere anymore where I can't be me,
Yeah.
because I'm not comfortable, and I'm not really delivering the value that I've worked 31 years to craft for people. So
You know what wrecks me, and it's a tough decision because your point was if it's not going to be, if you can't be yourself, don't do it. But a lot of these international shows, they have interpreters in the back of the room. And that wrecks me because I've got so much humor and nuance and double entendres, and they
yes,
don't translate. But
yes.
I'm loath to turn those dates down because I know that they're going to be seen by a lot of people. They're going to be well attended. You know, those are the big money gigs too. So
But it's
if
really
you're,
important, Michael, for all of us in this profession to know where we shouldn't be.
yes,
A great session, a great speech to the wrong audience is a bad speech.
yeah,
And I've really been for example, I won't work for lottery corporations, tobacco companies, gun companies, whatever. There's certain businesses that I see. I I help you do it better. And I'm not going to help you do it better if I don't think you should be doing it at all.
yeah. One last question. This is for the beginners out there, maybe some of the veterans who are towing the line on this decision. Should a professional speaker ever speak for free?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us more. Tell why.
Well, first of all, you need to perfect your craft, and that means probably several hundred before you perfect the craft. And getting what I call getting comfortable enough on stage that you also are having what I call the second conversation. The first conversation is the one that you're having with the audience. The second conversation is the one that you're constantly having with yourself quietly in your head. Did they laugh at that? Who's
Yeah.
not paying attention? Who's falling asleep? Who's getting up and leaving, and whatever. So just that you're watching the room, that you're saying, because what I do, because I'm edgy, I try something a little edgy and I see what the reaction is. Then the next point, I might be a little more edgy and I'll test the waters. But I have always that second conversation with myself about which date I'm on with that audience right now and how things are going and whatever. So um, it's really important to be able to do all of that, and it takes hundreds of sessions. So some of them will have to be free, but I've done 3,000 over 31 years, and I'm still doing freebies for a number of reasons. I had a client who was on a hospital board, and they needed to buy some new equipment that was very expensive. And I said, he said, well, could you make a donation? I said, well, a couple of $100 isn't going to help that much. But how about if you set up an event, all the business leaders in your community, lots of them are hospital patients, clients over time, or they're on the board. Anyway, them, the board of trade and different things. And so let's book the most expensive chef-owned restaurant in town for a Monday night when they're not busy anyway, and you sell tickets for 800 or 900 bucks, and they're going to get a gourmet dinner, which the restaurant's going to provide for free. I'm going to do 40 minutes in the restaurant for people, and then you're going to have a local auctioneer auction me off for a day of my time speaking or business coaching to the highest bidder, minimum bid $10,000.
Look at that. You just created another gig.
So in one evening, for no fee for me, I raised $27,000 for the hospital, and 3 people who didn't win the bid for me booked me for my full fee to speak at another event.
So that's 4 gigs total because the winner got you as well.
Well, the winner got me, but the winners wrote the check to the hospital.
Right, right.
So I didn't get any. I just got I got the 40 grand from the other people, and that's better than poking the eye with a sharp stick.
So creative.
And I speak at business schools, MBA schools, for free, and sometimes for a fee when they have a budget. But I think we have a responsibility to the next generation of leaders and business people, or whatever field you're in, to pay it forward, to give back.
Donald, you're such an impressive person and an excellent speaker. I'm so glad that you could be with me today. DonaldCooper.com, everybody. And you've got some other, now, do you have to be in your audience to collect on those freebies that you were talking about earlier? Or
Oh,
my,
the business tools?
yes?
No, they are available at www.donaldcooper.com/YFBT.
YFBT.
Well, which stands for your free business tools. But let's, look, many of your listeners and viewers are speakers, and this is my copyrighted proprietary material. And while you might use it to inspire how you might create some tools, it is inappropriate that folks copy and use and take ownership of that which I have spent 31 years creating. So with that clarity, I do make the offer to access them, but not to use them as they
Sure.
are for your purpose. That's not right.
Sure. And as always, guys and gals, if Donald helped you today, if you enjoyed this session and you learned something and you want to pay it forward for Donald, the professional right thing to do is provide attribution when you use one of his sound bites or talk about him in any way. DonaldCooper.com, one of the best speakers in the world, in my opinion. Very, very sharp. He's out of Toronto, Canada, everybody. Still alive and well on the circuit. And welcome back from COVID, sir. It hasn't been an easy row for us speakers.
No, it hasn't. And before COVID, I had throat cancer. I was mute for 1 year, and my oncologist said to me, "You're good to go." And then COVID came along and there was no place to go. So,
You know, Donald, some people stagger bad events.
sorry, some people what?
Stagger them. You cluster them together.
Oh, sure. Oh, you just gotta get it all over. It was like when I was a kid and I hated turnips. I just thought, wolf down the turnips so you can enjoy the rest of your dinner. But anyway, the fact is we all face adversity at some point, and we have a simple binary choice. We can choose to fold up like a cheap lawn chair and end up on the scrap heap of life and be irrelevant, or we can choose to soldier on and do our best. And my vocal durability is not what it used to be. That's why I sip throat coat. Oh, by the way, for you speakers, throat coat tea. It's you buy a box of about 20 tea bags, whatever, a couple of bucks. It's absolutely fabulous. Warm water in a little mug. And
Thank you, Donald. It's been my pleasure to be with you. DonaldCooper.com, everybody. We'll see you soon.
thanks, Michael.